Have you ever watched an asset like gold just skyrocket in price and felt this almost physical pull to jump in? You know, that little voice in your head saying, hey, everyone else is getting rich, don't you dare get left behind. Well, today we're going to unpack that exact feeling. It's a total paradox, right? I mean, it trips up even the most seasoned investors. All the logic in the world tells us to buy low and sell high, but our brains seem totally hardwired to do the exact opposite. So what is really going on in our heads during a market frenzy? What hijacks our rational brain? Well, the key to this whole mystery comes from a really amazing deep dive into one of the most dynamic gold markets on the planet. Researchers studied hundreds of investors to figure out the precise psychological triggers that make us rush into these emotionally driven decisions. And what they found is this incredible story of our primal biases and one powerful emotional mastermind. But you know the best part? They also found a surprisingly simple way to fight back. Okay, so to understand the crime, you first have to meet the accomplices. These are two really deep-seated human tendencies that, on their own, they're pretty powerful. But when they work together, oh boy, they create the absolute perfect storm for a financial fever. So let's meet our first two suspects, loss aversion and herd behavior. One is all about protecting what you have at all costs, and the other is about finding safety in numbers. Let's break down what these really are, because they are the foundation for the entire trap. Think about it like this. If you find a $100 bill on the street, you feel pretty good. But if you lose that same $100, the emotional pain is about twice as intense. This idea, which came from Nobel-winning researchers, basically means our brains are just highly, highly tuned to avoid losses. It makes us defensive and sometimes way too cautious. And our second accomplice is just as powerful. See, when we're uncertain about something, we look around to see what everyone else is doing. It's an ancient survival instinct, really. Back in the day, if everyone suddenly started running, you'd run too. You wouldn't stop to ask why. In the markets, that translates to buying when everyone else is buying, which creates this powerful momentum that's so hard to resist. So we've got our two accomplices, right? Loss aversion and herd behavior. But the study found that they don't act alone. No, they work for a much more powerful mastermind, the fear of missing out, or as we all know it, FOMO. This is the central emotion that turns a simple market trend into a personal, urgent crisis. So how does this whole thing build up? Well, the research showed a really clear chain of events. It all starts when we see the herd moving. We see news reports, social media posts, our friends are talking about their big gains. All of this social proof, it's what activates our FOMO, creating this intense, anxious feeling that a huge opportunity is just slipping right through our fingers. And this quote from the study's conclusion just illustrates it perfectly. See, the researchers didn't just find that FOMO exists. I mean, we all know that. They found it plays a mediating role. Think of it like the crucial link in a chain, connecting our built-in biases directly to the big, shiny Buy Now button. FOMO is the catalyst. It's what makes it all happen. Okay, so this brings us to the most important question. How does FOMO actually make us do something we might regret later? What's the specific mechanism that flips that switch in our brain from, cautious analysis to impulsive action? This is where it gets really fascinating. FOMO isn't just some background noise, some feeling of anxiety. The researchers discovered it's an active process that fundamentally changes how we calculate the odds. It's like putting on a pair of distorted glasses that makes all the potential rewards look bigger, and the risks, they just look smaller. So here's that emotional hijack in action. On one hand, FOMO dials down what we call anticipated regret. You know that little voice that warns you, hey, you'll feel terrible if this goes wrong. Yeah, that voice gets muffled. At the exact same time, it cranks up our expected pleasure. We start daydreaming about the thrill of a big win, the satisfaction, that feeling of being smart and successful. And that becomes the perfect recipe for a snap decision. With our brain's natural braking system, that's regret, turned way down, and the accelerator, pleasure, floored, we are just propelled toward making a quick and often not so well thought out investment. The emotional logic just becomes totally overwhelming. But now we get to the most powerful part of this entire analysis. The researchers didn't just want to diagnose the problem. They wanted to find a cure. So they actually tested a way to break FOMO's spell.
And let me tell you, the results were dramatic. The experiment was so simple, but it was brilliant. They divided up the 727 investors into a few groups, and they showed them different messages right before they had to make an investment decision. One group got a totally neutral message, another got a message encouraging them to think for themselves, and the third group, they got a simple risk warning. And the results? They were crystal clear. The power of FOMO was at its absolute highest when investors just got that neutral message. A message telling them to think independently, well, it helped a little bit. But just look at that third bar. A simple, direct risk warning absolutely crushed the influence of FOMO. It caused a massive drop in hasty investment decisions. The researchers even put a number on it. They actually measured the power of this antidote and found that a simple risk warning was incredibly effective at just disrupting that whole FOMO feedback loop and getting the rational part of the brain to wake up again. It's just a great reminder that sometimes the simplest intervention is the most powerful one. So, all of this leaves us with a really critical question to ask ourselves. The next time you see a market surging and you feel that irresistible pull to jump in, just take a second. Pause, give yourself your own little risk warning, and ask, is this decision based on my own analysis, or is my FOMO at the wheel? Because knowing the difference, well, that's the key to navigating the psychological traps of any market.